Hello, viewers, and welcome to Spotlight here on Hope TV, where you look and live. And here on Spotlight, we always do our very best to bring to you perspectives that inspire your reflections, especially on matters happening around us in the community, and also perspectives that inspire action as well for us as Christians. And one of the things that's happening at this particular time is that there is this unfortunate conversation going on that the money meant to help people during the COVID pandemic could have been pocketed by some people, could have been stolen because there is this looming COVID scandal. How unfortunate. How far have we fallen? And just to put our minds right, it is important for us to reflect deeply on the parable of the rich fool that is in Luke chapter 12, verse 13 through to 21. Admired, revered, feared, respected by the village, town, and city, yet scoring little in the eyes of God. Arrived and got it all together by the standards of earthly success, yet lost and falling apart in the eyes of God. Wise and intelligent in the eyes of women and men, yet uninformed and foolish in the eyes of God. Having rows of granaries and lines of warehouses, all stocked up with accumulations of farm produce, vehicles, bling, and other possessions, yet not even a bowl, a saucer, a cup of content in the storehouses of God. Now the litmus test of the world returns rich, but the litmus, the spirit test of the Lord returns poor. If we had a choice, we would go with the result that favors us. But as facts stand, God has the last word. God's assessment is final. Woe unto us if God's final remark on our score sheet reads, fool. The question of wealth and riches is always a sensitive matter. Many rich persons in religious, business, and political circles will allow a skin-deep discussion of their wealth, avoiding a dissection of any decent depth. Now, we want to be recognized as wealthy, but we do not want to discuss the means we use to acquire the wealth. But Jesus was characteristically bold and direct on this matter. At one time, he posed a question to the live audience of his time, a question that resounds to us today with the same freshness. The question is, what does it profit a man to gain the whole world and forfeit his life? Mark chapter 8, verse 36. What does it benefit a man to gain so much through means, with attitudes, and for reasons that poison the soul? Now, the term world at face value, as commonly used in the scriptures, carries a negative meaning. Worldliness stands as an opposite of godliness. World means material possessions, negative pleasures, and their accompanying vices. But we all know that God does bless people with possessions and pleasures. In fact, all of us are beneficiaries of God's goodness in one way or other. So what exactly does the world mean? Yes, the world implies possessions and pleasures, but more specifically, the world that we are warned about are the possessions, pleasures, and attitudes that we gain at the expense of our friendship with God. Jesus expounds this very well in the parable of the great banquet. That's in Luke chapter 14, verse 15 through 24. In this parable, God has prepared a great feast and sent out invitations. But the ones who have been invited give excuses. They are free to stay away. Free to stay away from the Lord of freedom? They are rich people. They have things. They have land, they have livestock, they have cars, they have houses, they have degrees, they have clothes, they have lovers. They have good things going on in their lives. They are rich people with mounting possessions, brains, and pleasures. But a critical question we must ask is, are these possessions and their attached pleasures drifting them away from God, or are they drifting them towards God? Are these riches making these people turn toward God, or are they making them turn themselves into gods? Now, if you listen to the phrase rich fool carefully, you will hear the irony in it. These two words do not rhyme. It is like there is a phrasing error. It's like the two words rich and fool are describing two different people. You can even hear the two words colliding and clashing in disharmony. Rich and fool are not meant to be side by side. On a normal curve, foolishness is an enemy of riches. On a regular day, the rich man should be a wise man, for true riches are a result of two things: wisdom and God's favor. The parable has two players, God and a rich man. The center of the parable is possessions, specifically farm produce. The issue in the parable is how a rich man responds to a situation that promises to make him richer. He already has more, and here comes an opportunity, a development that promises to add more to his more. Now, the rich man responds in a three-story strategic plan: tear down the granaries, build bigger ones, and thirdly, sit and tell the heart, be merry. From this response, we can compute a motive statement for him: expansion for leisure. Now, expansionism is double-edged. It can be good or bad. For example, the kingdoms of crime and corruption have been expanding in our country and continent. This is an unfortunate and an unwelcome expansion. The kingdom of God has an inherent characteristic of expansion. This is a prospering and welcome expansion. Now, God did not have a problem with the expansionist mind of the rich man. God has no issue with his riches. After all, he seems to be a diligent investor, and the passage does not suggest corruption in his acquisitions. It is the man's consumption plan that God did not approve of. Just like there is corrupt acquisition, there is corrupt consumption. The reason for expansion was to increase his self-indulgence. Expansion for leisure was his motto, and we can hear him say to himself, expand the granaries, expand the good times. If we were to allow the famous Maslow hierarchy of needs to guide us here, we can say that this man saw this extra expansion as the ticket to overtake self-actualization. The expanded income would take him to a place beyond the apex of the pyramid. What will you do when more abundance comes to you? If it were you in this promising circumstance, would you respond to the wealth in any different way? Going by the parable, God has no problem with expansion. God intervenes when the rich man entered the third item in his expansionist plan. I will say to my soul, soul, take your ease, eat, drink, be merry. That's Luke 12, verse 19. What made God call him a fool was his motive. Now, all of us have ambitions. We want to expand. But for what reasons? And by what means? Friend, when we have the model family, when we have bagged our dream job, and our business nails the grand contract, when we get that enviable position and status, when we graduate from looking for daily bread to eating cake daily, when lovely things happen to us, God help you and me that we shall not please ourselves by displeasing our Maker. Rather, we shall please ourselves by pleasing God. God help you and me, that when we have plenty of goods, we shall also have plenty of God. The rich fool is severely self-centered and has the Kenyan condition called grabiosis. There is a greater property than all the properties of this world put together. That property is your soul. The only way to preserve the soul is by walking side by side with the one who gave it. When we walk in the wisdom of darkness, no matter how much success we gain, we will lose our soul in the end. Losing our soul is losing ourselves. When we take life by our own definitions, no matter how much money, mileage we make, and hates of pleasure we gain, after the brief that is this life, we will lose our soul, lose ourselves. There is only one soul keeper. There's only one soul tender, the one who gave it. God is the only safe custody for your soul. You may look like you are losing out when you place your life under God's management, but know that when you call on God to be your manager, you are stocking up in the warehouse where it truly matters. You preserve your soul by preserving your relationship with the soul giver. The good thing is that if He can give us soul, He can give us all other things also. God is the soul giver. God is the soul taker. It is He who is able to prune the foolishness in our riches. It is Him who is able to give us the wisdom of true riches. Yes, let us desire riches, but with a God-friendly motive. Yes, let us pursue wealth, but in a manner approved by God's Bureau of Standards. This has been Spotlight. Thanks for watching.